I think it's certainly in some ways a challenging time, but also an opportunity for a reset. I think, the digital agriculture space has shown a lot of promise about the types of solutions that could be deployed around farmer advisory, access to finance, access to insurance, and access to markets. We've not yet seen that potential fully realized, and that's, there's various reasons for that. With the reduction in ODA funding, so USAID closing and actually other governments reducing their funding, that's certainly a challenge for a lot of players in this space in the Sub-Saharan African market. But it's also potentially an opportunity where we're seeing, there's an article just yesterday by Raj Shah, who used to be the head of USAID. He's now the head of the president of Rockefeller. And he was just pointing out that this may not be such a bad thing, that a lot of governments themselves are stepping up to sort of fill some of that gap. And I think people looking for more diversified funding sources from private sector. And so I think we'll see some shifts in the next 5 to 10 years, both in the funding landscape and on the technology landscape, where we'll see a lot of implications of new AI technologies and how they're applied to solve some of these very difficult localized problems, but using these massive investments or leveraging these massive investments in large language models and other AI technologies. Maybe for a moment, just taking a look back at why digital agriculture hasn't been as successful as we thought it might be. And we sort of look at the data, try to understand the barriers that have not been overcome yet. I'd say it really comes down to two things. One is on the adoption side. So I think we've encountered a lot of product market fit issues, a lot of human-centered design. More of that is needed. I think a lot of digital literacy, language literacy challenges that need to be overcome. So I think AI can really help us there on overcoming a lot of those barriers. So that's quite exciting. I think the other element is that we have never really had the foundational layers on which innovators can build. So I'm talking about your digital public infrastructure, your national farmer registries, your national soil maps, weather data that's easily accessible, so that innovators can then focus on the problem and not have to worry about building the whole stack on their own with very little capital. So I think this is sort of some of the lessons learned and how we can apply and leverage AI and digital public infrastructure to overcome some of those adoption barriers and scaling challenges. Yeah, as far as collaboration goes, I think more of that will be needed, especially as I think about some of the ways in which AI can be applied to the sector. Just one interesting fact about data that represents smallholder farmers is that fully embedded into these large language models. And so just a little statistic, as the CGIAR, they're a global research organization, 8,000 researchers around the world, publishing all sorts of information, new practices, best practices, treatments, and so forth that could potentially be adopted by farmers. So a lot of great resources that have been published by them. When they did a study of how much of their data had been incorporated into OpenAI's first model, it was only about 5% of their content, which means that large language model then doesn't represent smallholder farmers. And so I think this is a real challenge and a place where collaboration is needed. So we have to sort of think about where does it make sense to collaborate, where is cooperation needed, where is competition healthy. And I think in some of these emerging markets or pre-competitive markets, let's say, you want to sort of push more into the collaboration space because there's just so many problems to solve. It's very hard to do it on your own, especially if you think about an example like that where with the large language models and AI, they work much better with more data. Nobody has enough data on their own to actually make a difference to how those models perform for smallholder farmers. So that's a very clear opportunity to collaborate. And that's where convenings like this can really make a difference, to connect those different players and try to find common ground where it makes sense. And it's totally fine for people to compete in other areas where competition can drive down cost for smallholder farmers or for other partners, but you still have to have that foundational layer to build on. Makes it easier for everybody. What trends? I mean, I think, we're starting to see, we haven't fully seen yet, but we are starting to see the impacts of reduction in, sovereign funds, from the US and other countries reducing their investments. So I think we'll start to see some challenging times for some startups, and we've certainly seen that over the last couple of years with the capital markets and VC type investments as well. And so again, that's going to be a challenge. We'll start to see some companies disappear or not survive that period. But at the same time, I think we'll see some companies emerge out of that that will eventually figure out what the right product market fit is, how to deploy solutions in a very efficient way. So I think that's one trend that we're seeing is a downturn in the accessible capital, but a sort of interesting moment where we're just starting to see the implications of AI and DPI come into play. That will take a little more time. And so it's really interesting moment to see. We're sort of at a nexus of sort of the digital agriculture 1.0 and what is digital agriculture plus AI plus DPI going to look like going forward. I challenge that it's been successful. I think we have a lot of stories and we like to tell, quote a lot of things like, oh, I've got 1 million registered farmers on my platform. But I think if you dig deeper, then the actual evidence, the actual impact has not been as significant as we perhaps thought. We did a study of about 10 RCTs, so we're best RCTs we could find on digital agriculture solution, digital farmer services. We found that on average, those services had an increase in productivity and income of around about 6%, which is much lower than anticipated. Now, it's not actually a terrible thing because the ROI is actually quite good. So we do see decent ROI. Getting these services down to like a level of 18 cents per farmer per year in India is where we've got some of these very basic ICT services. So yeah, that's my sort of challenge to a misconception that all of these digital agriculture solutions have been super successful, when I think if you dig into them a little bit, they're not always that way. But again, the ROI sometimes is still there to make it a worthwhile investment.